In terms of wisdom, is there mechanisms by which you kind of observe the negative thoughts and let them go? So you have people like the David Gogginses who kind of he seems to almost like separate his mind into there's the weak David that he hates, and then there's the strong one. I mean, there's like a very contentious relationship there. So he basically says like, I refuse to be that person. And he's almost like angry at that person. He's almost like sometimes literally yelling at that person, the weak version of themselves. And then there's another more sort of Sam Harrisy approach, which is like just observe the thought and let it go. Maybe knowing that this too shall pass, like no matter what, this moment will not last forever, and kind of sort of accepting the natural flow of things and taking one step at a time and allowing whatever the negativity, whatever the pain you're experiencing, just to pass, even if it means a death march. Which one is more effective for you? Which one, like, would you say, generally speaking, to the population is more effective?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's probably unique to the individual. I wouldn't argue that, David is finding success with his approach. Some may argue it's an extreme version. Sam has obviously thought about these things and really probably, I see those guys as kind of two ends of the spectrum in just the way that they kind of come across in general, where like David's like really at you, kind of high energy, and Sam's kind of this calming, soft presence, and he's just going to slowly, methodically lay it all out there. And I think there's value in both of those. I think most people are probably going to get a benefit from pulling some from each. I mean, there's times where I need a kick in the ass, and then it's like have the strong Zach tell the weak Zach to get moving. But there's also times where it's just like, a subtle voice entering my head about, I don't know if I feel quite right now. Should I maybe pull back on the pace? And I think that little subtle voice is best approached with a subtle positive voice where it's more like, okay, well, let's think this through here for a second. You're 40 miles into a 100-mile race. You spent 4 months preparing for it. From the workouts you did that you're ready for this. There really isn't any real reason for you to slow down or to fall off your goal or your pace or reassess what you're doing. Let's just give this another mile or two, and then we can reassess if we need to in order to kind of figure out if I'm doing the right things or not. And I think like in that situation, you definitely probably want to lean more towards the Sam Harris approach with that, because there's really no reason to. It's almost like the same thing you see with like just training and even nutrition to a degree, where like some folks, they just want to be like kind of like drilled. They want to be like yelled at and said like, get going, get doing this. And that helps and that motivates them, that helps them stay accountable. Other people need some softer love with it, where it's like, this isn't necessarily your fault. You were put in this environment that kind of created an atmosphere of lethargy and maybe poor nutritional choices and things like that. And like, so, but it's correctable. So we need to step away from that, and we need to kind of start heading in the direction that we know is going to bear fruit down the road. And that person may respond better to that. So I think both those guys have great value with their approaches. They're just probably polar ends of the spectrum. And I think most people are probably going to benefit, like anything, right? You get the polarizing ones, and those are going to work great for the polarizing people. But then most people are going to fit somewhere in the middle. So they're probably going to be able to kind of pull from both of those if they're able to sit down and kind of like assess which one's going to work better in which situation.